Prose, The Garden Party by Catherine Mansfield. Subject English, Class 11, Semester 2, West Bengal Board, Session 2024 to 2025. The Garden Party's Summary. The Garden Party, written by Catherine Mansfield, is a touching story. It points out the absurdity of class distinction in our society and explores the theme of maturation through the protagonist of the story, Laura Sheridan. The story opens with the description of a beautiful summer morning, sunny and cloudless sky. The wealthy Sheridan family is making preparations to host a garden party that afternoon in their estate. The garden is well prepared for the party with its pristine beauty of roses, lavender, freshly mown lawn, etc. The early summer day could be no more perfect, and neither could the family garden. Mrs. Sheridan assigned various tasks to her daughters in arranging an elaborate garden party. The readers are introduced to the 4 children of the Sheridan couple, Laura, Jose, Meg, and Laurie. However, the attention shifts primarily to Laura, the central character. Mrs. Sheridan sends Laura, the artistic one, to supervise the 4 workmen who have arrived to set up a marquee in the garden for the party. Laura takes her breakfast outside and is astonished to find 4 impressive workmen waiting. Though apprehensive at first, Laura soon finds out that the workmen are friendly as she interacts with them and feels impressed. To her amazement, the workmen speak with directness that any member from her own social class lacks. They negotiate about where the marquee should be set up. She admires their lack of pretense, wishing if they could be her friends and she could be a work girl. Laura realizes the absurdity of class distinctions and feels it an injustice that prevents her from socializing with such extraordinarily nice men like these. Her simplicity and aversion to class distinction get highlighted through her interaction with the workman. However, she slips comfortably back into upper class artificiality when she takes a telephone call from her friend Kitty Maitland. All around preparations are going on for the party. Canna lilies are supplied by the florist. The piano is checked and moved into the drawing room. Furniture is rearranged. The carpet is cleaned and it is decided where the band will be placed. As for the food, the cook of the Sheridan household prepares 15 kinds of exquisite sandwiches, and fancy cream puffs are delivered from the famous Godber's. A different chord is first introduced in the story when the Godber's delivery man shares the news of the accidental death of a cart driver, Mr. Scott. He is the near neighbor of the Sheridans who lived just down the hill from the Sheridan estate in the working class neighborhood. He leaves behind his wife and 5 children. Laura is distressed and her enthusiasm for the party is dampened by this tragic news. Being a girl who is tender-hearted and sensitive, Laura decides that it would be inconsiderate to continue the party under such circumstances. So, she suggests that they should call off the party as a gesture of respect, first to her sibling Joe's and then to her mother. They both appear unsympathetic and dismiss Laura's idea, arguing that Laura's concern for the poor is ridiculous and an overreaction. To distract Laura, Mrs. Sheridan gives her a beautiful black hat trimmed with gold daisies and a long black velvet ribbon. Seeing her own reflection in the mirror, wearing the black hat, Laura suddenly starts to see Scott's death as blurred, unreal, like a picture in the newspaper. When Laurie returns from the office, Laura goes to ask his opinion on cancelling the party. After her brother praises her hat, Laura decides not to bring up the accident after all the goes to attend the party. The description of the party takes up very little space in the story. The party is a grand success with the band playing, hired waiters running to cater to the beautifully dressed guests, couples strolling, and guests greeting each other and moving over the lawn. After the party, Mr. Sheridan mentions the news of the death of Mr. Scott, and Mrs. Sheridan is irritated that her husband also wants to ruin their fun like Laura. Then she has a brilliant idea and decides to send a basket full of leftovers from their party to the grieving family by Laura. Mrs. Sheridan is so disconnected from reality that she considers the food to be a great treat to the children of the deceased. She thinks the gesture will be much appreciated and fails to realize that it is an insult to her neighbor's dignity. Laura considers it inappropriate but agrees to take the basket to the Scott family. The story reaches its climax as Laura walks away from the Sheridans' wealthy home on the hill and goes down to the working class neighborhood. She is horrified to face the dark, gloomy lanes, the small, cramped cottages, and unsightly residents there. She realizes there exists a darker world outside her bright, colorful, and protected world. Laura decides to turn back, but it is no use as she has already reached the Scott's house. Soon, she is introduced to a weeping Mr. Scott's widow by her sister, who opened the door and invited Laura inside. Meeting Mrs. Scott makes Laura feel uneasy and confused. She tries to run out the front door, but instead walks through the door to their bedroom where Mr. Scott's dead body lies under a sheet.
But once she takes a look at the dead body of Mr. Scott, lying so peacefully, far removed from all the suffocating constraints of society and complexities of life, death seems beautiful to Laura. Instead of feeling awful, she feels pure and blessed. She realizes that there is beauty in both life and death, and everybody is equal in death. This realization prompts Laura into action and sobbing out, "Forgive my hat." She runs out of the Scott's house. She meets her brother Laurie on the road, who comforts her. Laura attempts to express this new realization about life that has recently been stirred in her to her dear brother, saying, "Isn't life?" but cannot finish her sentence. The story ends with the narrator's insistence that Laurie quite understood what his sister tried to say, and he responds by saying, "Isn't it, darling?"